Okay guys, today we're gonna do something fun. I have an idea, something that I actually really want to do. So honestly, you guys have been leaving me comments since I've made my fixing AMD's broken drivers video about things that you need fixed on your computers. Now I've responded to a lot of you guys directly and done a pretty good job of answering questions. Granted, the sheer number of questions is more than I can personally do alone. So today, I'm going to actually answer your questions in video form. Yep, I'm gonna pick a couple of comments, we'll talk about it, and yeah, we'll get right into it right after the intro. I'm gonna preference this by saying if I butcher your usernames, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna at least attempt to use your username because it at least will feel a little bit more like I'm addressing you directly, or well, at least to me, it does. So our first comment comes from user Alastrid. Now, Alastrid did comment on our video about Radeon Chill, specifically thanking us for explaining how it works and helping them get their stream up and running properly. That being said, Alastrid did post a second comment on our Radeon Boost asking which should be enabled, Radeon Boost or Radeon Chill. In this case, because we do know that the situation regards streaming and recording, I would actually recommend Radeon Chill above Radeon Boost. Radeon Boost is a dynamic resolution scaler, and it actually does create some weird effects when specifically recording video from a game. In fact, actually, in many cases, games will not actually register as their proper resolution when Radeon Boost is enabled. And there's pretty much no way around that. And because of that, well, OBS can get a little wonky with it. It can handle it, but in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to recording, a consistent frame rate is always better than a dynamic resolution. And Radeon Chill is designed to allow you to alleviate some of the work off of your GPU by capping your frame rates, which will then in turn be better for GPU encoding. In fact, actually recently, I personally had to do a little bit of troubleshooting around something like this with Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. I unfortunately do have a recording that will be going live at some point where the recording is quite laggy, and there's nothing I can do to really fix it or re-record it, as it was a cutscene heavy part of the game. And the only way to really get around that was actually to cap my frame rates and actually lower my settings. You see, the way that AMD does their video capture is they actually use a portion of the normal GPU cores to actually capture it. But video games in their software do take priority over that capture. And so if a video game needs that core, it can dynamically switch to a core for actually processing the game instead of a core that is used for capturing it. This is actually in stark contrast to NVIDIA, which have designated CUDA cores that are only for video encoding and transcoding. Zyke commented specifically on our video about Radeon Boost, asking if it's safe to actually turn on AMD features after fixing their drivers using our previous video fixing AMD's broken drivers. I'm actually kind of happy that this question came up so recently because I did really want to add it into a video at some point. Yes, for the most part, all features can be turned on after the fact. And that is because with further testing, we were able to actually find out exactly where the drivers were failing. You see, when you set the game drivers, for some reason, it sets the boost algorithm on the card to a more aggressive boost. Because of this, you actually end up crashing the software because the drivers aren't stable as they piggyback off of the GPU. Much like we mentioned earlier, the AMD GPUs are capable of dynamically changing what their cores are doing. And as weird as it sounds, the AMD drivers do utilize a portion of the GPU cores. And if you overload that GPU and then have a core fail, it might actually be the one that has the driver, which causes the driver crash. This is actually a pretty big issue, and AMD still really hasn't fixed it. But the bigger issue is that the software doesn't allow you to change out of game mode and change that kind of hidden metric without restarting the entirety of the drivers. Unfortunately, switching the modes doesn't seem to affect it all that much, which is why you can even set it to game mode after you put it to standard, and it ends up not causing too many issues. If you really do want that extra aggressive performance though, you can always put an overclock in, and honestly, I would recommend that over actually using whatever the heck that boost algorithm is, because it is obviously flawed when it comes to GPUs with factory overclocks on them. It's actually disproportionately always an overclocked GPU that is having problems. RM posted, do you know if this fixes the dev error 6661 in COD Warzone? Ooh, what is error 6661? All right, so RM, to answer your question, it looks like the error is actually caused by a damaged install. I would try completely uninstalling the game and reinstalling it. Usually that would help. Make sure that the game files are completely purged. I've had situations where games just refuse to run if the old files are present. So just go into the actual local files, which you can do from the Blizzard launcher as it is in there. And then you can, I believe there's a little drop down arrow that you can click. You can go ahead and browse local files, uninstall it first. And then if anything remains after that in that folder, just completely delete the folder, reinstall it, and hopefully when you reinstall it, it should be working properly. If it does continue to get corrupted though, I would suggest maybe running a disk checker to make sure that your drive isn't actually failing. Uzi Wu said, great video. This is in regards to the same price, custom versus pre-built keyboard. Honestly, thank you very much. I appreciate that. This one was on the AMD Link video. We've got, they've updated AMD Link again. Now you can run it, it runs better, and you can now use it as a trackpad. That's actually kind of cool. Personally, I would love to take a look at AMD Link again. I could see with a nicer tablet that actually being extremely useful for doing essentially drawing tablet using a wireless connection. That could actually be kind of nice. Or even like an old laptop, really. Oh, well, you can't really, it has to run Android. So maybe a Chrome OS, like a Chromebook. Also on the AMD Link, what phone controller did you use for that? I used the Razer Jungle Cat phone controller that I'm pretty sure they're going to discontinue soon, as they've discontinued the Razer phone, which the Jungle Cat was kind of designed around. It does work on some select iPhones and some select Samsungs, but if you are looking for a phone controller from Razer, I would actually recommend the Razer Kishi instead, as it's more compatible with more phones and works in a more traditional way. This is a comment on my Snakey Snake head pillow video. Can you sleep in 4K? No, the Snakey Snake pillow does not enable 4K dreaming. It is using a Retina style display. So yeah, you can see in Retina, but not in 4K, which, yeah, we'll go with that. Low Q says, are you Batman? No, unfortunately. I wish, because then I'd have enough money to actually run this YouTube channel full time. Hexies said, specifically in regards to my video around the Razer Huntsman V2 analog, you should do a foam mod and lube the switches. This is one of those weird things about that keyboard. I actually tried to kind of get in there and take a look at it. It's really assembled weird. Like, it's difficult to take apart for no good reason. So a foam mod would be actually kind of difficult, especially because I've been doing them on all of my keyboards lately. The only one of my customs that doesn't have a foam mod yet is my 65%, and I honestly should do it. It's not going to take too much time. That being said, opening up those switches, I'm not 100% sure of, mainly because they are analog switches, and I'm sure there's some pretty close tolerances. Every time you open up a switch, you have the potential to damage it as well. Not to mention, it seems like to really get in there, I would have to desolder them, which is not a great thing, especially because I've had issues with that keyboard for other reasons. Reaper Skull says, what if you cap the frame rate and have anti-lag? Can you make a comparison video between those two? Radeon software has a frame rate limit controller. You can set limits, yes. So Radeon Chill allows you to cap your frame rates pretty regularly and pretty easily. Antilag and Radeon Chill, though, don't really affect each other too much. Anti-lag is sort of a unique beast because what it does is it doesn't necessarily make your frames per second lag less. It just reprioritizes frames where actions happen. So a pretty good example of this would be in a traditional situation like you're playing an FPS, the click that you make and the attack registering are going to be drawn out in the order that they are received. With anti-lag on, it can flag that action as essential and effectively skip a couple frames to make it happen. So essentially what anti-lag actually does is it decides to reprioritize things to make them more important. That being said, it's actually not as easy to determine outside of things like FPSs when anti-lag is doing its job properly. I have found that in MMOs, it makes almost no difference, except for keeping your average frame rate a little bit lower, mainly because it is, dumping frames whenever it needs to. That being said, I would like to actually take a closer look, maybe in our anti-lag video, because I've been working on it forever. We'll actually take a look to see if maybe I can demonstrate that the two aren't really necessarily correlated. Now, the last one we're going to take a look at today was on why is nobody talking about this case, the Fractal Define 7 XL. I was wondering if there were some fundamental flaws with this case because there weren't any reviews in the store I chose to order from. My old Chief Tech case, okay, and I have gone a long way together. However, still in good shape. Some of the external ports no longer function, and it's quite outdated for new boards. So I sought a replacement and more recent simple functional black monolith case. Thank you very much for your review. It helped a lot. So yes, the Fractal Define XL actually did get really ignored by a lot of people. That being said, still an amazing case. It is a bit big. It's actually back here in the background. You can see it on that camera, actually. It's so tall that I just having it around a desk is very difficult. That being said, honestly, there's a mesh version of it now, which is awesome. Other than a couple of little deceptive marketing things, like them showing 2 full custom loops in the case, neglecting to show that in order to do that, you can't use a front rad, which the front spot is one of the largest in the entire case. So, and utilizing a bottom rad spot, that's certainly super weird to do. It honestly is a really cool, really big, really amazing, chunky case. The lack of reviews is probably because it is mostly plain. There's nothing really too special about it. It's just a bigger, better version of the Define 7. And the XL nature doesn't really bring too much different to the table that the 7 didn't as well. And that's where we're going to wrap up here today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, you can leave it a like. I would recommend that you comment on any of our videos. I might do a follow-up of it in a video myself. So, I mean, yeah. And you can do it in the comments of this video. That's a good place to start. You can also subscribe so that if your comment is picked, you can actually see it getting, yeah. I don't prioritize anything special. There's all of your guys' comments are important to me, and I do actually answer them for the most part. I try to get to every single comment. If I don't answer quickly, it's usually because I'm at work. So thank you guys again. I will see you guys in the next video. Wolfie out.